Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. We got just one ring, let we rule them all. Hope you'd remember your thoughts. Get your Uru feathers and your Middle guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword +1. Use Valerian steel if it will get you to count. To the pit, tank. To the pit, tank. The Rocky Mountain pit, tank.
Darmok and Troy at
Tanagra. Sized podcast.
So we're both trying to do. We're discussing a very interesting topic today. We're talking about memes and meme culture and its relation to a specific episode of Star Trek. But first, we should talk about what are memes. Hey, Troy.
What are memes? What do you mean? Memes, which I like to call memes, but nobody knows what I'm talking about, so I can't call them memes.
Right.
Are spelled M-E-M-E and pronounced meme. I think almost everyone knows what a meme is, but not everybody, I guess. Like, some people, we won't name names. So a meme is...
George has no
clue. So a meme is an idea, a behavior, a style, or usage that spreads from person to person within a culture. And those are typically done through discrete units of knowledge, gossip, jokes, and so on, with pictures. A still image with usually the joke being the punchline of the text that's within that picture. It's also an amusing or interesting item. Genre items spread widely online, especially through social media. I think most people are familiar. Most popular memes would be like the grumpy cat memes.
Yep.
One. So that's a meme. And memes, I actually didn't look up when they first originated. Do you have that information off the top of your head?
The first meme, I believe, was 1935.
Would that be a comic strip?
Nope. Well, yes, I think it might have been a comic strip in a paper, but it was a well-dressed guy in
I see it.
tuxedo, and then it says, how you think you look, and then it's like this badly drawn version of it, and it's how you really look.
So when was the first internet meme?
Yeah, because that's a distinction that we need to make here. I actually saved that because I thought that was so cool.
In 1982, Scott F. And then I messed it up by clicking on the button.
It always happens this way. You're like, when was the first meme? Well, it had to have been 2001. And you find out, like, in 20 BC, Egypt had them, it's like, yeah. It's always that way. Hi, Brent. Welcome to the show. Pictures. That's where I'm headed.
The word meme was coined by Richard Dawkins in his 1976 book, The Selfish Gene, as an attempt to explain how ideas replicate, mutate, and evolve, or also known as memetics.
That makes some sense, I guess.
The concept of the internet meme was first proposed by Mike Goodwin in the June 1993 issue of Wired. In 2013, Dawkins characterized an internet meme as being a meme deliberately altered by human creativity, distinguished from biological genes and his own pre-internet concept of a meme, which involved mutation by random change and spreading through accurate replication, as in Darwinian selection. So there you go. 2013 is the one I'm going to stick with.
And you're sticking to it.
That's right. So yeah, but the connection that we were drawing here, and you said it's a fun, interesting episode. Anytime we talk about Star Trek, though, I think it's a fun, interesting episode for you.
Always will be.
So you had brought up before, I think before we had even really made the connection between our kids, how Darmok, how the episode was connected to memes in a weird way. So let me pass it over to you, and you can talk about Star Trek. I believe it was episode 2 of season 5.
Yes. So real quickly here, let me share my screen because I actually found said meme.
All right.
So I want to show that because I think it's very funny. So I guess flashlight means something completely different than what we thought. But yeah, that's the first meme. So there you go. So anyway, I just think that's cool. That's all. So yes, so we were going to talk about an episode of Star Trek, which would be from the episode Darmok, which is a TNG episode, and it is in fact 5XO2, so season 5, episode 2. Sorry, I was distracted by this meme thing.
No, that's fine. I'm just trying to stay on top of, I'm trying to keep pace with your knowledge, which I know I will always be behind.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. So Darmok is an episode in which the Enterprise is sent to meet an emissary from a group of people called the Children of Tama, and the Children of Tama are these people who, no matter how much they've tried to talk to them, the universal translator just gives them gibberish, and they don't know what's going on. And so they're going to go out there and try to talk to this. They're going to send Picard, who is really good at this stuff. So that's what the hope is here. The Children of Tama come in and say, all this gibberish stuff, Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra, and Sokath, his eyes opened, and, Mirab, his sails unfurled. And there's all these things that they're saying that nobody knows what they're talking about. And they're even arguing with each other, and it doesn't make any sense. So ultimately, the decision that Darmok makes, or that Dathan makes, is to beam both of them down to the planet where they can have a shared experience in the similar way that Darmok and Jalad had at the place known as Tanagra, which was the whole point of the whole thing, was so that he can show Picard how this worked. Well, what we have observed, especially between our two kids, is that there is a bunch of things that are going on that are similar to this episode. But let's go on ahead, and I want to make one more point. At one point in time, Deanna Troi makes a comment in there where she says, this is, polka. And Picard says, you're saying tea. And she goes, am I? Or am I saying cup? Or mug? Or hot? Or cold? If I just give you an item, you can't tell what it says. Then she says, what if we only spoke, and I said something like Juliet on her balcony? Mm-hmm. You and I understand what that means.
Right, which Crusher says it's images of romance.
Right.
And then Troy is like, well, if you never saw the play or read what Romeo and Juliet was, you'd have no idea because you have no context.
Right. And the whole thing is about context. And so it was interesting in, way back in 1991 when this aired, because to some degree, we kind of felt like we were doing that anyway, to a degree, because we would sit there and quote quotes from the TV shows we were watching,
Star Trek.
Yeah, Star Trek, for one. I mean, obviously, the next day after this episode went around, all of us were going through school going, Darmok and Jalad Tanagra, Shaka, when the walls fell.
How'd you do on that test, guy? Shaka,
when the walls fell. I mean, that was a thing, and we knew it. So to some degree, it was self-generating. What's happening now, though, is an evolution I see in this entire thing. And that was what was fascinating to me, is listening to my child speak to Troy's child in memes.
They speaking in meme, which is really interesting because they
speak in meme.
And it was when Guy and I were talking earlier, we were like, well, this is different than quotes because quotes don't change. Quotes are stagnant.
If I say curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal,
right,
you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Wash. You get the image of Wash on the bridge of the Serenity, and he's got his dinosaurs, and they're sitting on the control console. you already see that scene, that image.
Right. It's a shared fandom, knowledge of a shared fandom, and you're taking a quote and applying it directly to maybe a situation like we might be playing Risk.
Right.
And I might have like made a promise like I wouldn't attack you or something. And then I attack you.
And then you attack me.
So you're finding a way to take a quote and apply it to that, but you're not changing anything.
No.
Whereas when our kids are talking, like with my son, he would say, other kids eating a popsicle, me eating a popsicle. And if you're not looking at them, you miss half of what's being conveyed because he's miming something while saying that. He's the image of the meme, and his dialogue is the text that's supposed to be part of the meme. And so he's coming up with new information and conveying it to your kid, and then your kid will like respond in a way of like his reaction. And so they're actually communicating in this kind of meme format of their own speaking.
And it's so fascinating to me. They are evolving, and it's just weird. I mean, it's not weird. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. If we weren't geeks, we would probably be the kind of parents who would say, stop doing that. Talk normal.
Act like normal people. Instead, we're like, no. Let's just listen to this.
Let's see where this goes.
And I was trying to find good examples that were, because I can only remember the last one. I feel like that one's kind of controversial, so I didn't really want to get into that. My kid was really into being controversial, and he continued doing it around Kevin, who's conservative, and I'm like, oh, you're gonna get your butt in trouble. Oh boy. But yeah, he was making references to mask culture, and he was using a meme and converting it into mask culture for the benefit of the example, and making a statement as if he had created the meme. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really fascinating. And then your kid would reply in that same manner, referring to something similar, and they were making a connection on the topic by communicating with these memes that didn't start out on that topic. Mm-hmm. That fascinated me.
It was pretty crazy.
Brent spent a month speaking in GIFs, he says. And now he's going to make fun of me for calling it GIFs.
Well, the creator of it called it a GIF, so I think that it therefore is technically a GIF, even though I think GIF sounds neater. And GIF
is right. I mean, like grammatically, GIF is right.
Yeah. Well, apparently he did name it after Jiffy Peanut Butter, and so he meant for it to be GIF. Yeah. But GIF sounds neat because when I'm sending you a GIF, it's kind of like I'm sending you a gift. Right. Which a gift is much cooler than necessarily peanut butter, which could be a gift in itself, but a gift could be
it depends on the peanut butter, I guess.
Right. By the way, Oreo has chocolate peanut butter Oreos, which we have to try.
I saw those, and I'm not sure what to think about that.
Yeah, well, I haven't tried one yet. The coffee ones are good. I tried coffee.
I have been eating the coffee ones. Initially, I thought those wouldn't be good, but they turned out to be okay.
Yeah. I rabbit holed us because Oreos. So, Oreos, but GIFs another thing because in a way, emojis and GIFs are their own language as well. Some people would communicate using just emojis back and forth.
Well, my favorite one is Mal going,
right?
Because sometimes you get into a thread and you're like, what? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a great stand-in too for the Archer, where he's like phrasing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I use those for all kinds of weird stuff. It's that one specifically is one of my favorites because I'll be sitting there in a nice, happy little discussion, and it will suddenly go dark, or it'll suddenly go left, or it'll, I don't know where the heck it was going. But then it was like, I'll be sitting there going, yeesh, So, but
that's your phone, when you type a word, does your phone like highlight that word, allowing you to hit it and turn it into an emoji? Because I've noticed that.
It wants it to do that along the bottom, as the options of spelling and stuff like that. It'll do that too.
I've noticed that's interesting. It's like, well, I know you said shoe, but wouldn't you rather just use a picture of a shoe?
Yeah.
So, no, I think I would just stick with the word. So
suddenly I am being killed by I'm allergic to you. I think that's the problem.
yeah, that's going to be a problem tomorrow.
Yeah, it is. I'll be right back.
Okay. Chewy. There, I filled in the sound effect for him. I'll do another one. Okay. So the interesting thing that I found with the episode of Darmok was the language as presented. Like you only get an hour of an episode, so you only get to see a glimpse into that culture.
Right.
But if you think about it logically, their language, since it's based on metaphors and built around a mythology and referring to the mythology, it makes you wonder, how can they ever present new ideas? Because they're locked into all these things. So if you have a new thought,
you have to talk about, like, if it was us, we'd have to be stuck with only Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm. Which, but if I was trying to teach you how to build a starship, that'd be kind of tricky trying to use Shakespeare to do that.
Right. I mean, it'd be like, and that would be tough. But this might be it. I mean, watching how our kids did this, that could be it. Darmok and Jalad might have been only 100 years ago for the children of Tema.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that, and they, because you have to think this somewhere along the line, Darmok and Jalad had to have somehow communicated to build the ship,
right,
on the ocean.
And they had to have had a language before, because they had to speak to each other on the island, right. So they had their own languages.
Right. So, I mean, I feel like, the theory that my wife and I had come up with a long time ago was that the adolescents are telepathic. Or the children are telepathic, the adolescents are telepathic, and the adults are not. And so you're born and you get a download of all of the culture, and then all of a sudden you go deaf as you become an adult. And when you go deaf, all you can do then is just relay back and forth. You remember that thing we were talking about with Romeo and Juliet? That's what's going on right now. And so that was our theory that we'd come up with.
What if they convert from telepaths to empaths, so that way they're still communicating, but they have to use the words, but they're implying that it's kind of like the way Mandarin and Cantonese have like one word, and the one word can mean 30 different things depending on where you put the inflection in it.
Yeah.
And so just knowing the word doesn't help you if you don't know which parts need the high and the low in tonation in the word.
Right.
Which could be the same for their language, is how they say it could totally change what they mean with it. But I could tell it was one of those things where the person who wrote it was like, I want to build this episode around universal translators and what flaws could exist in them. And
probably I'm totally building an entire scene in Bellatrix Rising about universal translators, because that's funny. Sadly, I can't say it on Geek Tank. Because
PG-13.
It's always about, because I feel like our foul language evolves faster than anything. And so bad words are going to be the fastest evolution thing.
Supposedly the F word has been around for years and years and years.
But it didn't mean the same thing. You know what I mean? It like evolves into meaning something different with every iteration, and and stuff like that. Now it's an exclamation of pain. Like you kick the wall or whatever.
I forget the comedian.
Nothing to do with reproduction.
I forget the comedian, but they're like, it has 30 different meanings. So
right.
That's another one of those that you can use as a verb and a noun.
Right. Or it's messed up or destroyed or whatever. But I imagine a scene between two people where they're saying, you said the F word. No, I didn't say the F word. Why would I say the F word? I said the F word. You just said it again. No, I didn't. I said the F word. Why do you hear the F word? Because they're like,
who's on first?
The translator keeps using the correct translation back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But when they talk in normal language, the translator comes back and said, you said sex. Why would I say sex?
What's interesting is watching someone who's never seen British television or understands their slang, and then some of the words they say have different meanings entirely than what we would use and would be inappropriate in the situations. And so,
well, that was still one of my favorite stories from Japan. My British next door neighbor, he kept saying that girl is so fit, and I couldn't figure out how he knew she was exercising.
Right.
And then I found out that fit means the same thing as hot does in American.
How do you know her blood pressure?
Yeah. Right. How do you know how do you know whether she's overheated or not? Yeah. But then of course the retaliation on that was that Honda makes a car called the Fit. And so we were behind one once, and I leaned over at him and I said, "That car is so fit." And he said, "Shut up." Because I wouldn't let him go at that one. I was like, but I mean, I've got to admit, if Toyota made the Toyota hot, I'd probably find that to be silly too.
Especially if they spelled it HAWT.
Right. I'd be like, what does that mean?
So thinking about the language that the children of tomorrow used, kind of like how we have sayings that we actually don't even need to use the whole saying. Like I could say, you can lead a horse to water, and you know exactly the rest of it because it's so much a part of our culture.
Right.
So it's
well, it's like early to bed. Same thing. I mean, we had a bunch of phrases. You could just say half of them. Right. And people would be like, if you didn't have our cultural reference, well, fit and hot.
Because hot would mean
right. If you say a girl is hot, literally, if you don't understand the cultural reference, and nobody knows what, and that was sort of that's what I'm fascinated by. Teach a man to fish. Right. That's another one. Teach a man to fish. Teach Amanda to fish.
Yeah, or just teach Amanda fish.
Teach Amanda fish.
Somebody's car alarm's going off.
My car alarm. It's mine. It's
very loud. That's a heck of a car alarm.
Yep.
But yeah, we don't know if does that mean that she's physically external temperature has shot up over 100? Like, right. That's something I had to learn in German too, because German very much uses how they use the word hot similar to us, but they mean it more so. So the word heiß, you don't want to say literally translate "I am hot," which ich bin heiß, because then you're referring to being like randy, sexy and randy. So
yeah. So, which could be the same in English too. If I'm hot,
I'm hot.
Which is different than I'm hot. So that's another one. Facial expressions can change everything. Saying, "Oh, I'm hot," is different than I'm hot.
Right. That's a GIF. Somebody needs to turn that into a GIF.
Yep, that'll be a GIF someday.
Oh, I'm sorry, a GIF.
Gesundheit.
A GIF. I said the whole thing. What? Speaking of movie quotes.
Right. Klaatu, Barada. I said the whole thing.
Necktie.
He brings it on himself, to be fair. But that's the thing. That's the thing, right? Because I mean, we have cultural terminology that permeates the culture. And every generation, we've gone from one type of set of words to another type of set of words. Our generation used awesome a lot, to the point where I don't even notice how often I say awesome, but I'm a Gen Xer, and awesome was what the 80s did. We were all awesome in the 80s, and that's the way it goes. But we took a word that meant something completely different and appropriated it and reused it and fired it forward. Cool is another one. Cool was brought in the 50s, and it was appropriated and taken and moved into culture and meant something totally different. The millennials went with sick, which I never really felt comfortable saying, because it always feels
more a lot of Gen Y, I think.
Yeah,
that one.
Well, that's the millennials.
Yeah.
It's Gen X, then the millennials, then it's now the Zoomers or the Gen Z.
I'm with Brent. I use dude all the time. And I know I shouldn't, because that's very gender specific, and I use it non-gender specific. Everyone's dude.
Well, and it's not just that. I mean, we use it as an explanation. Dude, don't do that.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
and that's another Gen X twist
Mhm.
to things, and using it gender non-specific is very Gen X.
Mhm.
Before that, it was very specifically,
Yeah.
but Gen X took it and really did make it gender neutral,
Mhm.
which does kind of make me a little bothered by younger non-binary, younger trans, and that culture, who are getting kind of offended by that because it is gender specific. But I kind of feel like only Gen X should probably have a slight, like get out of jail free card on that one,
Mhm.
because we really did use it gender non-specific.
Well, there's a whole episode on South Park about the use of the term gay and how it was taken away, that was used for something meaning, totally shifted away from meaning homosexual. And the problem is,
Stupid or bad.
right, or lame, I think would be
Yeah.
another way. But the problem, of course, is because it's so tightly connected to meaning homosexual, it's hard to get away from it being interpreted as saying homosexual means lame. And in South Park, of course, they were trying to say, no, that's not what we mean. But the problem is, no matter what you mean, you have to give respect
Credence
to
to who you're
people's
talking to.
to their interpretation of it.
Sure, and I don't think that we should be given a pass, just some leeway.
Leeway to adapt and change.
Right.
Like we
Give
know
us some grace to
we
get
need
out
to
of
change. We need to adapt. We know it. We're working towards it.
We're working toward it. I'm still having a problem remembering your name, so
Mhm.
sometimes reprogramming is hard. But and like I said, it was part of our culture, and it was gender neutral in only the Gen X period.
Mhm.
And I think that millennials went a different direction. They chose different words. They went a different way. And of course, Zoomers now are meme speakers. So there's that.
I'm sorry, I had to mute because someone has ice in a metal container. So I get the feeling when they drink, we're going to hear.
I'm just gonna wait a minute because usually you get song melted.
Okay. But yeah, it's adapting language and changing is important. What's interesting is the words that don't stick around and the words that do. Like, I think as fun as yeet is, it seems like it's fallen out of fashion. You don't hear people use the word yeet as much.
Right? I mean, yeet like was born and died in like 2 years.
Yeah.
We had words like that too.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
bad. People don't use the term bad to mean good.
Right.
Much.
Well, yeah. I mean, and that was a short enough time. Even us Gen Xers don't use bad that much.
Yeah, it was briefly in the 80s. And I think it was around
like
the time
early 80s, because it was when
Michael Jackson
came out with that song.
I'm Bad. Which is not, yeah.
Yeah. So. And my kid does too. Brent's saying his daughter uses it. Now, Brent's daughter is the same age as our kids. So our boys, your younger boys and my boy. Mm-hmm. So we're all talking about 11-year-olds here, which is the same era.
Right. I imagine if I were to play Fortnite for a few hours, I'd probably see it used or heard it used a lot.
Right. One of the funny parts is the teenagers in our group, specifically the one that I sort of claim as niece. Mm-hmm. She gets really wigged out when we use the correct usage of words. Like when you correctly employ yeet.
Right. When your lexicon's on fleek.
Right. Exactly. Then it's like she gets really bothered by it. Like, you're not supposed to say those things, or know them or something. She seems to be duly offended by the fact that I know these things.
It's supposed to be their pig Latin. We're not supposed to know it.
Which I think is funny because everybody does that. I remember when my mom would do that too.
Your mom.
Thanks. She would come in and go, "This is really awesome." And she'd look proud of herself. And I'd be like, I don't think so.
Speaking of, you probably should yeet our awesome ads up.
We'll yeet the awesome ads. Where's the banners? There it is.
And don't forget your disclaimer. Yeah, we need to replace one of them.
Geek Tank is sponsored by Kieran Games, Geekway Homes, Shiny Garden, and
Your mom.
Yeah, we can just run the bottom thingy. Also, this just in. No, I mean, really, this is just in.
Yes. It's
Isn't that cool?
brand new, shiny. It has the whole new book smell. It's artwork illustrated by our very own Guy Davis, G.S. Davis.
G.S. Davis, but yeah, even inside is all.
So where would somebody get that book besides breaking into your house and stealing it?
Yeah, that wouldn't go well. Amazon. You can get this on Amazon.com. Just type in the Silver Pentacle. But I mean, I know that that Brent has been along with me when I've been working on these pieces in here.
Make this.
He wants an artist signed copy of it. I can do that for you. I will happily do that for you. At some point in time, I think that.
There we go. Do it again.
There we go. So you can see the lovely artwork inside is like just exactly like what Brent had observed. There we go. Focus. Come on. Focus.
You got to angle it because you got your circle light in there.
Circle of light.
Yep.
There we go. So there you go. You can see it there. And
you just need to get the light in the palm of her hand. That way it'll be a special effect.
Oh, let's see if I can do that.
Up, over. There you go.
There we go.
Yay.
So it's not a very thick book. It's only about 150 pages, but it's an excellent book.
Nice.
I do say so myself.
And if you're local, I bet we could probably get the artist to sign it.
Yeah, I'll probably take copies with me now that I've got them and put them on my table with me whenever I go out and table.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever that happens. So
cool.
Anyway, so I like this just in because it literally did. It arrived seconds before the show today. But I am really amazed by how fast that was. I turned in the cover Sunday. I was wrapping it up during our D&D game last week. I was working on it during our game. I was working on that cover and fired it off Sunday morning, and it was available for purchase Monday. And I was like, whoa. And I mean, print quality is solid. So, I mean, this thing's I can't get over the speed of which this went from literally, I mean, it hasn't been 7 days since I was last painting on this cover.
We're a long way from the printing press.
Right? But I mean, I'm still kind of shocked by that, frankly. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. It's like, wow.
Speaking of languages, that's one of the interesting things now that with the internet, information can travel from one side of the world to the other instantly, pretty much. And so communication and the evolution of language, you don't have to have these regional things. So if you have a friend who lives in Texas and they use a saying that you're not familiar with, you could just ask them, and now you're on top of it for when you travel down to Texas.
Right. But I'm just yeah. And it's the way, well, and that's also true too. Cause I mean, howdy, howdy is a regional dialect. Brent, we'll figure out how to get a copy to you. Don't worry, bro. We got you covered. We'll figure it out. Anyway. But howdy, that's a great example of something that is sort of regional. I mean, if I say howdy, you're like, what are you, a cowboy? But you go to Texas and you walk into a store and they'll be like, howdy, and that's natural and it fits, and you don't feel like they're being a cowboy or anything.
And do not respond by saying duty.
Right. Well, you could. It just might get you shot. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Well, what won't?
Y'all's another one.
Yep, that's very Southern. My mom,
Your mom
still says it. So.
Oh yeah. I'll say it if I'm tired enough.
The great thing about y'all is it's general neutral.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it totally covers everyone.
Everything, because it's. Are you part of everything? You all. So y'all folks.
Yeah. Y'all can come over to my place.
And shuck some corn.
Shuck some corn. So I on language, I noticed something interesting. There have been a couple of memes that go around the Star Trek community now regarding jordy, because, and if you guys have not kept up with the news, the actor who plays Geordi LaForge, LeVar Burton, is now going to be a guest host for Jeopardy, which has been sort of a drive that the Trekkies have kind of drummed up, because really, LeVar Burton is kind of the Fred Rogers of in the real world. He's like Fred Rogers. He's just like one of those infinitely lovable, absolutely awesome sort of people whom you just can't hate. You can't hate him, which is why we always feel kind of like Geordi got done wrong because of his, creepiness with Leah Brahms. But that's okay. One of the things I have noticed, though, is people will do memes with Geordi, and they'll have him speaking in street slang. And I find that...
I'm not part of the Star Trek group, so I'm unfamiliar with these.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind him being the full-time. I would watch Jeopardy.
Right.
I mean, I haven't watched Jeopardy since my grandmother was alive.
Your grandmother.
My grandmother. But I would totally watch Jeopardy if it would.
Well, the great thing about him is that too, it's like you're saying, he's like the real life Mr. Rogers. He has the interests of educating children in the forefront of his mind,
right?
With going back to the Reading Rainbow, and then he brought that back. I can't remember if that's through Kickstarter or what, but he had brought back to some degree a Reading Rainbow type project, and so having him on Jeopardy is great, because Jeopardy is one of those shows that does educate you to a degree, because you learn new stuff about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can't find the one in
the meme where it's
using looking for, because I didn't expect we were going to talk about it.
Is do you think part of the humor of it could be that that's so much not like LeVar Burton or Geordi? That it's being ironic, I guess, or sarcastic.
I don't know. There are some good ones though. I've just typed in memes and I was like,
the memes I've seen the most with him is, of course, is where they'll have him doing the no to one thing, but then the yes to the other thing.
Yeah, so. Which actually is kind of funny that I found that one on Imgur. This one's like, this one's meta. I like this one. Wait. I will share my screen on this one. This is super meta. Oh, I like this one. This is good. So, okay. Anyway.
I know I'm supposed to know who the other guy is, but I'm
yeah. Well, I think his name is Drake, but that's okay.
Oh, the musician.
The musician, yeah.
Okay.
So,
and a lot of musicians, I have no idea what they look like.
Right. Jordy and Guinan, because it was Jordy and Guinan together. Meme. But it was like really, I don't know, but like it was just the one one thing where he was saying something that he used or used R instead of is, or is instead of R. You know, when they're in that slang, the sort of hood accent. They will, you know, you say, you know, how you is instead of how you're, you know, how are you, or, you know, that kind of thing. And I was like, I've never heard either LeVar or Jordy speak like that. And so it kind of bothered me because I was like, no, wait a minute. What do we do?
Because it smacks of racism.
Yeah, it smacks of racism. And I thought that's a thing. You know, I'm like, I don't know if I can find it though. I'll have to bring it up. Because I saw it and I was like, oh, I don't know. It just bothered me. But it's interesting how one word can really change the meaning of things. You know what I mean? Like, really change, and it's just because you're hearkening in a way, you're making like a minor meme out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's
a new podcast that I started listening to called Scam Goddess, hosted by Lacey Mosley, who's a comedian. Something that since I'm not part of the culture, I wouldn't normally know, but in the lexicon now, it's referring to men and women as king and queen. So I'd say, "What's up, king?" referring to you, and it's like from what I can gather, it's putting a position of power and respect, like acknowledging the level of importance you are to me.
Right.
Thing,
like,
which is
you're as my king, so to speak.
Right.
I get it.
So I thought that was an interesting thing. I have no idea how long it's been going on, but I can definitely tell that that's the listening to the language and words that are used that obviously would have a literal translation wouldn't make sense, but listening to language as it evolves, which is what languages are supposed to do. They're supposed to grow and evolve.
Right. I am looking back through, because I saw it on Facebook. I'm looking back to see if I can't find it, because I like for you to see if you saw the same thing I saw. You know,
right.
Of course, I've kind of polluted the timeline here.
Right, because you've already told me your opinion of it. So,
yeah, so I've already sort of told you where I am on that. I guess I can't find it.
So I'm wondering. I'm interested to see where this meme language goes with our kids and how far they take it, and if it will continue for the next few years or if it'll just die off in the next couple of weeks. But the thing I found with it too is whenever my kid's interacting with someone else, another adult, and he does it, they're completely lost. They just don't get it.
Well, what's so funny?
Yeah.
That meme specifically that we used, I remember we walked into the dollar store and my kid had done he'd done like, Kit Kats, Snickers. And I went, Drake, Jordy. And he laughed. And I was like, dude, I just totally talked to him in meme. I'm like, I don't even know. But I'm like, because of course that's also a meme rolling around.
Right.
That's kind of cool. It was still funny. I was like, huh. So there's that. I can't find it. I'm finding a whole lot of Bernie ones, though. I like the Bernie ones, like Bernie on the bridge. Or Bernie, here's Bernie in Lower Decks. Okay, that's funny. I'm going to share that. Because that's funny. That actually works remarkably well. So, especially since you saw that episode recently of Lower Decks.
Right. So yep, the Bernie memes, those are, I think a lot of those, well, they're still images, are not gifs.
Well, no, because
is a meme without text?
Well, it'd have to be, because Bernie became a meme,
right,
without text.
So yeah, so that would still be considered a meme,
I mean, honestly,
right?
I mean, really honestly, this became a meme in and of itself.
Yeah, there's one with him on the Emperor Palpatine's chair, like that,
Yeah.
which completely fits.
And
Or
there's
the pose. I mean,
yeah, and there's one of, I mean, well, even the ones that don't fit. You know, I mean, it's like, this is what happens when you let the Trekkies have this particular thing going on. Yeah, because this apparently went on for a while in the Trek universe. So there's that. So, you know, it's a thing.
mm-hmm.
So there are, yeah, I mean, it's I mean, you can make memes by themselves that aren't whatever. I mean, I guess it's kind of a thing. So, and apparently you can also have memes. Some of these are good. You can also have memes not in English. So, I mean, I guess we kind of knew that would happen. So there's that. Anyway.
Right. Memes can jump cultures and languages.
Sure.
Just alter them.
I'll have to save that one the next time I see it.
Right. So you can let me know.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to bring that up at some point in time because I really, that bothered me. And it was just one word. You know?
Yeah, it's hard to know. Do you follow LeVar Burton like on Twitter or something? And
it wasn't LeVar. It was a meme made somewhere else.
Well, I know, but I was just wondering if he's seen it and has said anything about it, because that'd be
interesting. I will look. I do follow LeVar. I follow almost everybody on Twitter. I don't post much on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Too busy reading.
I'm too busy. But I do like to kind of just every so often, because all I'm doing on Twitter, of course, naturally, is following all the Star Trek actors and following NASA and following SpaceX. Speaking of SpaceX, saw an interesting op-ed today about how things kind of shook out, because SpaceX just became the dark horse in the moon race. And I don't know if anybody's noticed this, but NASA gave 3 preliminary contracts out for who could get them to the moon, which in and of itself is fraught with politics. And I am more than willing to make an entire show on the politics involved in all of that. But needless to say, I do not believe that this is a cut and dry, oh, well, it's because capitalism is awesome and we should have free marketed the entire thing in the first place. I'm allergic to you.
I know. Well, the problem with that is unless if you can find money to be made by going to the moon, people aren't going to invest money to going to the moon for purposes of capitalism.
What you really have to have in capitalism is you have to have a crazy, crazy CEO who is willing to find a whole bunch of equally crazy investors, which is what Elon Musk did. Mm-hmm. Because he gave them just enough business sense to fuel his ridiculous. And I have to admit, I've been watching SpaceX since the get-go. And I thought they were fundamentally insane. I really did. I thought, I mean, it's cute, but they're never going to make it to Mars. The only way we're ever going to get to Mars is using a socialized program like NASA. Well, NASA's biggest downfall is that we have become so polarized that every administration has to undo the previous administration's work. And in doing so, ruins whatever they were trying to do that requires more than 8 years to do it. So they've been working on SLS, and then they work on SLS Orion, and then that gets bypassed because we want to keep the shuttles for a little while longer. So then they have to go back to working on the shuttles. Then that gets scrapped so we can kill the shuttles and bring Orion back online. So then they're back on Orion. Then the Orion thing gets scrapped out because Orion's not going to make it to the moon. So they're going to make now this space station around the moon, and the SLS will get there. You know what I mean? It's like everybody has a different mission. Every administration has a different choice as to what to do with NASA. And so it's a problem. And what that means is that if you can't accomplish it in 8 years on a budget that's literally 1/150th of our defense budget, then you can't do it. It's never going to happen. So it's not fair to say that they would never have gone to the Mars because the free market companies did better. They didn't. The free market companies just managed to have one crazy nut job who had enough money to do this. And at first I didn't think they were going to make it. But then all of a sudden Starship landed. Starship 15 landed. SN15 landed. And when it did, we suddenly had Buck Rogers, which we've never had before. All of our rockets were different than Buck Rogers. They didn't land on their butts. They didn't take off from their butts. They couldn't just take off from Nowheresville. All of a sudden, the world changed. So, I'm talking about the SLS.
Which is how tech works. Smartphones came along, and within a matter of years, they went from being bricks to being handheld computers.
Sure. Well, and the SLS was started in the 90s. It's 90s technology. It was designed to sunset the space shuttle. And what happened was it kept getting postponed and moved around and shifted. And the space shuttle didn't sunset until 2011. And so, it's like just a big mess. So now NASA is going to pay SpaceX to send a Starship to the moon. Now, the way they're going to do it is they're going to build their little space station around the moon, and then they're going to send the Starship to the space station so that they can justify that. But the reality is, the way that Starship works, there's going to be 20 of those things really shortly, and 10 of them will be fuel tanks. And the whole idea is that those 10 of them get up into orbit, and then you launch one up that has crew on it. It gets up there, they refuel it, it heads out to Mars, where they've got 5 more orbiting Mars. They land on Mars, get back out there, refuel, come back over here. You know what I mean? This is going to be a big deal. There's going to be a thing. They don't need anything in between. They've got these gas tanks orbiting Earth and Mars. So you just get up in gas station, you go to the gas station, then you head to Mars, then you go over there, stop at the gas station, land, get back up into orbit, stop at the gas station again, come back here,
And of course, they have to keep funneling gas to Mars so they can keep a steady supply there.
Well, that's the other thing, is they're working on extracting oxygen out of the lunar soil and out of the Martian soil. I mean, lunar soil is almost 50% oxide. If you can get a processor onto the lunar soil, you can separate the oxygen and you've got an oxidizer. Oxygen's a great rocket fuel. And we happen to breathe it really well, too.
Some do.
Yeah. So you can show that. Yeah. And so I feel like we've got kind of this problem where we're going to have this issue where NASA wants to be justified, but can't be because they keep getting hamstrung and thrown back 10 years. And so they're always going to be 10, 15 years behind the companies. And I'm almost cynical enough to think that that's intentional. So anyway.
Yeah, we're a long way from having to worry about running into an alien race and having to decipher their language.
Yeah, you're trying to put it back on our topic.
I am.
Yeah.
It's taking a lot of rocket fuel to get there.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's good. We're refueling in orbit. It's fine. So anyway, I didn't mean to get on that ramp. I sort of was thinking about that earlier today when I had read that article. And then we talked about Darmok and how they're speaking in memes. But I do feel like we have exhausted that to some degree.
Right.
I mean,
that's why I let you go up until 3 minutes before the end of the show.
Yeah, when we have to bring it back and go, Shaka, when the walls fell. Or I guess we could then say, Sokath, his eyes opened. Yeah.
Start combining them. Sokath, his eyes, the walls.
His eyes, the what?
What?
No, but then we can look at each other and go, Mirab, his sails unfurled.
The problem with that language is there's no room for puns.
That's true.
So I wouldn't enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, you could just see, Sokath, the joke he said to his children.
Right.
Made a new phrase for it right there. Oh man. That actually, I actually kind of want to write that now.
Shaka, when the balls fell, talking about him reaching manhood is all. So I'm pushing our PG-13.
I'm like,
no efforts.
This is only because all of our kids are heading into the growing and changing section.
Oh my god! And your school's already started the talk, but my school hasn't. So I'm like, hey, when are you guys gonna start the talk so I can fix everything you say?
Yeah, actually, it's been really funny. I have had some of the best discussions ever, but I think the best quote came from today.
Oh, today, okay.
Today, when my kid said, "You know what? I'm glad to be alive. I'm really glad you and Mom had sex." And I was like, I don't know what to say to that.
Right. I still like the mouth quote, which I won't repeat here.
Right. That one was good too.
So.
I have to admit, though, I have been enjoying the heck out of him having sex ed.
Correct.
Because he has said some of the best quotes he has said in a long time. And I have had some great, because I have always felt as a parent, and we only have about a minute left, that you don't hide anything. We have never hidden anything about this particular aspect of human culture. It's in the way we've kind of presented it is much like driving. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, it's just something you can't do right now, but it happens everywhere. Man, someday you'll drive, someday you'll have sex. It's the way it goes.
Well, I think it's on us to break the culture of the taboo of making it like, no, you don't talk about it at all, because that's how you don't get information.
Well, and there is a different thing that our culture, because my mom was also very open. Yep, very open about this stuff, and it was never a secret. Both my dad and my mom had this discussion before I was born that they weren't going to play the stork game or any of that crap. It was just going to be, and all of the pieces of the body are going to be named properly, and there's not going to be any silly names or anything like that.
So they all had proper names.
Yeah, proper. So
John Thompson.
Yep. Well, you have to put the proper in the proper, and then that's what you do. And then sometimes you touch the proper, and it's okay.
And that's where the phrase "giving them props" came from.
Exactly. So we had the same discussion with my kid, but there is an evolution on this, because now we have to say, when it comes time, you will meet a girl or perhaps a boy. We have to add that quantification, which was not there in our generation.
You'll meet a person.
Yeah, you'll meet a person. But when you get into body parts, you have to discuss how
all
boys and boys have body parts that work together, and how girls and girls will have body parts that'll work together, and all of those things. And especially since he's now fascinated in the detail of that, like, how does that even work? especially since he is picking up jokes like 69 off of YouTube. He's pulling and he doesn't even know what they mean, and so he'll come to us and ask us what that means, and we have to give him a description of what that means. And then he's like, no, wait a minute, how does that work with two boys? Well, it works pretty much the same way with two boys, But today's question was, well, okay, wait. And he was like wanting to know all about like how gay sex would work.
See, once again, this just reinforces my idea that we need to have a separate show called Geek Tank at Night. So
because you're like, at this point in time, it's getting a little too
Geek Tank after hours.
Well, we are kind of after hours technically because it's 2 minutes after
right,
hours.
but it should be a whole separate show, and you should reverse the colors so that way it's a black background with the green logo. Yeah,
that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, and then we can have
tomorrow. I will be more than happy to relay all of these wonderful war stories to you because they are hysterical. Mm-hmm. Some of them are really funny.
Supposedly, we will be on Monday, 8:00 this Monday. We're switching from Thursdays to Mondays. That's the battle plan. It all depends on if our if Chelsea is going to be able to shift gears, or we could just say if something comes up and she can't, we'll still fire off on Mondays.
Yeah, maybe we'll just switch to Mondays. Okay. If that's okay. Brent had said earlier, way out there, that your schedule allows you to stick with me on Mondays or stick with us on Mondays.
Eventually,
provisionally. So, but it may be a time when that happens. So. Mm-hmm. But either way, keep an eye out for that and see what we've got going on there. And I'm going to stop sharing that screen. and then I definitely will at this point in time and say, Mirab, his sails unfurled. I've been Darmok.
And I've been Troy. It's been Guy and Troy at Tamara.
Guy and Troy at Geek Tank. Sort of, I think.
We'll see you tomorrow.